Surprises to me in the NFC West. I would take the under on the Niners 10.5. They are getting old in key spots. You got Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury, and then Brandon Ayuk coming off an injury. They have 12 draft picks. That is a lot of young players. Rookies don't flourish generally except key positions in the NFL. Also, they lost Greenlaw and Hufanga. They wanted to keep both. Those are leaders, great instinctive players. So we haven't loved their defense for the last couple of years. And when Bosa gets hurt, it's a bad defense. So, and he's getting older. I would bet the under on the Niners at 10.5. I would bet the over on the Rams at 9.5. They need a corner. Outside of that, they are set. They're getting better. The defense got better Thanksgiving on. So the Rams, I would take the over.
Yeah, this probably surprised me the most. The Rams being 9.5, and the 49ers 10.5. Listen, I think it's a fair bet because of all the injuries that the 49ers had, that they're going to be a better team than they were last year. It's hard to imagine that you're going to get much of a repeat unless they continue to be decimated by injuries. But you then have a Rams team that was obviously decimated with injuries. Injured O-line, injured wide receiver 1 and 2. And then even when they were both back, Cooper Kupp was clearly not what he once was. And yet they were still able to win 10 games. Now, you can say that, well, hey, some of that was taking advantage of the 49ers, who were a bad team, and now they're going to be better, and so those wins will be a little bit harder to come by, et cetera, which that logic is legitimate, right? Whether you agree or disagree with it, it is, at least legitimate logic here. But at the same time, I'm like, well, the Rams, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be significantly better. Like, I think this Rams team, and this is what I said for much of last season, it was so hard for people to really evaluate who the Rams were as a team because of how their season unfolded, specifically how the injuries unfolded, and when they lost everyone, and it was from the jump, and missing your wide receivers, your O-line, and then like you're able to kind of win a game or two, but then like it catches up to you, and then you finally get Puka Nacua back and Cooper Kupp, and then it's going to take a second to kind of get everyone going, and it did take a second to kind of get the defense going, and et cetera, but the Rams team was obviously a great team from my viewpoint. They were a great team. A little bit inconsistent, sure. We can chalk it up to injuries. We can chalk it up to even when they were healthy, they had only played so much healthy together, right? You have a limited runway, and we know, like, look no further than the first couple weeks of a football season. We see how disjointed so many teams look like, and even the quarterbacks, whether you're Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, whatever, like, it takes time for these guys to get in rhythm, to kind of get back in the swing of things. It's the exact same thing with injuries. Like, just because you're back, just because you're healthy, especially if you're talking about missing time in the beginning of the season, like, just because it's week 10 and now you're healthy doesn't mean that you're going to be playing week 10 healthy football. And I think that's a lot what we saw with the Los Angeles Rams. And I do think that the Rams are susceptible to having just inconsistent games with Matthew Stafford at this point. I think that has shown to be the truth just with his age more than anything, and he's has the ability to get banged up and be worn down a little bit more. But he still has the ability to be great and to be a top quarterback. I will always say this in all my Rams videos and Stafford videos, that to me he's the hardest quarterback to evaluate right now, because I do think he's truly a special and elite quarterback. But he's just older, and he's at the perfect age where you're just like, no idea what that's going to look like in any given moment. Like, sometimes you're going to look at him and be like, oh my gosh, this guy's clearly a top 2, top 3 quarterback. And other times you're going to be like, yeah, that looks like a guy who's in his, about to turn 40, is married, has like 4 kids or whatever, like looks a little tired, looking a little banged up, looking a little out of shape, just is what it is. So I guess I can see where Vegas is being a little bit more conservative in that regard. I'm sure they're probably even like trying to think like, yeah, there's going to be some games when everyone, Devontae looks old and so does Stafford or whatever. But I think the Rams will be great, and I think as long as they stay healthy, you'd probably want to give them the front runner, because if you look at it like this, they were able to win 10 games when they were truly banged up, had just a bunch of injuries. They were able to still, keep this all afloat, win some games. Now you're talking about the team that's supposed to be, obviously you're banking on them being healthy, and that's what we're going through, right? We're going to make the prediction based on the fact that they're actually healthy, so you're not going to be banged up on the O-line. You're not going to be banged up with wide receivers. You upgraded at wide receiver. Some of your younger players, especially some of your younger defensive players, they're going to be better now by virtue that they're not rookies, that they're not younger. You're going to have continuity now with the offense and defense. Like, it's hard for me to see that this team then just does exactly essentially what they did last season. You're going to say that they're healthier this season and that they've, upgraded their roster, so to speak, and yet somehow they're either just going to repeat exactly what they did last season under worse circumstances or actually even go backwards. And again, is the argument specifically because the 49ers are going to be better? So now you're more likely to split with them or maybe even drop 2 games? Like, I don't get it, because then the Seahawks won 10 games, right? Was it 10 games last year? 10 games. And yet Vegas thinks obviously not too highly of Sam Darnold and losing DK Metcalf. So there, boom, you just lost 2.5 games there. So let's just call it an even 3 right there. So I'm trying to make sense of it a little bit. I don't know if Vegas ever does this. I'd have to take a look at some of the other win totals, if they would both put like the 49ers and the Rams at like 10.5 or something like that, or if they try to like completely predict it in a way that makes it, I don't know. I guess it all depends on how you're trying to predict how people are going to gamble, honestly, the most. But I think it would be fair. To me, the 49ers are still a question mark. I trust their franchise to be able to right this ship for them. They've obviously been a very well-run franchise for years and years and years. So to think that they're just going to spiral and be a bad team now, multiple years in a row is a harder pill to swallow. But I also obviously believe highly in the Rams. So I do see this going down between the Rams and the 49ers, which is hardly a hot take. But I just am not going to put the Rams... I'm not going to give the Rams the 49ers an extra win over the Rams right now in terms of projected win total. You can make the argument that the 49ers have an easier schedule, and that's why. Again, I'm open to all of that, but it's just, I don't know. It just seems like the Rams are legitimately undervalued right now. And I'm trying to figure out why, though. Like that's really why I'm kind of tripping over this, because I'm just trying to figure out like what do they think happened last season? And why do they think that they're not going to be better this season? Especially when, and it's a little bit harder because it was the playoff, it was like a snowstorm against the Eagles, and then you went up against the Rams you went up against the Vikings, who clearly were just falling apart offensively with Sam Darnold in that offense. Like we saw what the Lions were able to do with them, and then we saw what the Rams were able to do to them. So you can't, take that to the bank necessarily either. But if we really kind of pull back and we look at all the playoff teams, in no way do you look at the Rams and just be like, they were kind of fortunate to be there, or they were there just because, like, someone's got to make the playoffs. Like, they were clearly a playoff caliber team. They were clearly highly competitive. They were clearly highly organized. They were clearly very well coached, and Stafford played pretty good, 2 pretty good playoff games. And again, that roster was clearly not perfect in terms of, it was a limitation having Cooper Kupp at that point. But now you have Devontae, and I think Devontae at this point is a major upgrade. And so, who knows, if you put Devontae on that team last year in the playoffs, again, like, who really knows? Take away the snowstorm as well, who knows? So I'm just, when you're just looking at all the other teams that were there, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Commanders, etc., I'm like, yeah, the Rams were right there. They were right in that pool of teams. I get it. Matthew Stafford isn't the big name relative to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen these days. I get it, but like, have we forgotten also like Sean McVay? And it's like, if you're talking about the Rams going up against the Ravens, like I'm gonna pick Sean McVay I'm gonna give a massive coaching advantage to Sean McVay and the Rams against the Bills. Massive coaching advantage to Sean McVay and the Rams. You know, the reason why they didn't necessarily have it at the Eagles is because Sean McVay was going up against Fangio, and Fangio has been in the league for like 80 years at this point, right? So like Fangio is also like an elite defensive coordinator, an elite defensive mind. Make no mistake about it. So you kind of have a little bit more equal playing field in that moment of time. So I just feel like the Rams are being undervalued. It's not like so much at 9.5 is the worst number out there, just because, again, people forget that winning 10, 11, 12 games is like, those are healthy win totals in the NFL, right? Like that's, if you win 11, 12 games, like unless you're really just beating nothing but bad teams and losing to good teams, like you're going to be a good team. You're going to be a really good team. So, I get it, but at this point, if you had to guess and make projected win totals before the draft and months before the season starts, I just don't see how you could give the edge to the 49ers. At the minimum, I would both put them at like 10.5 or something, and kind of go from there. But to kind of just give that edge to the 49ers over the Rams, I'm not fully understanding why, especially if you're like, oh, well, the 49ers are going to be better because they were injured and now they're healthier. And it's like, yeah. And then that's what happened to the Rams, though. So if we're going to follow that logic, so again, it has to probably be, because of strength of schedule. But, I don't know. Then it will come down to the division, to the divisional games more than anything. And I just like the Rams' chances against the Cardinals, Seahawks, and 49ers. So, I don't know. We'll see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Los Angeles Rams being undervalued and losing to the 49ers in the division, according to Vegas? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.